And we're almost live.
We're almost live?
Now you are.
Now we are, okay.
You're live.
We're live, all right. Well, good morning, everybody. It's, gosh, we're even close to the right time. We're getting things, we're doing things different on Mother's Day. So I hope you're doing well today, and I'm glad we're together. It's, it is Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. Isn't it nice that Mother's Day always falls on a Sunday?
Yes. Always remember
we
what it is.
can get together. Yeah, we can remember where exactly. We can remember where it is, when it is. We can get together and celebrate moms and motherhood and all that. Moms are really amazing at giving love without condition or without thought of it coming back. That's for sure. I think it's written in there in the job description for all you moms. Moms impact and influence the lives of their kids in a very special way. Now, if you had a good relationship with your mom, or a good relationship with your kids, then your actions kind of reflect that. And the choices you make in life, they reflect that. And if you had a difficult relationship, well, it usually results in lifelong hurt and then acting out because of that. And it's just the truth of what it is, because we're all looking for that love, that acceptance, that nurturing that moms really are the kind of the key to do. Even when moms seem to have expectations, and we think that we being kids think they're unreasonable expectations, mom's intention is our best interest, and that's what we need to understand. In reference to mothers, Billy Graham said this. He said, "Only God himself fully appreciates the influence of a Christian mother in the molding of the character in her children." So I thought that was a very proper and poignant statement. I hope that, for those of you that are listening, for people like me, I was lucky enough to have two moms in my life. I think God knew that I needed two moms. So, yeah, well, he knew he knew I needed something special, and I not only had two moms, but I had two praying moms, and that made a real difference for me. So for you moms, thank you for being moms. Thank you for being a praying mom for your kids, because that's really the thing. It's days like today, these moments, these life moments that give me pause, that allow me to reflect a little bit, and I think it is really important to reflect on our journey. It allows us to identify, it allows us to appreciate experiences, both good and bad. Things we've learned from, things that that went well, and hey, I can do that again. Yeah, let's do that. And it helps us identify ways. Reflection helps us identify ways that we can continue to improve and grow. So that's an important part of our journey. More than anything, at least for me, I think reflection allows us to be grateful. We get to remember, we get to see, you get to look back and see on the good times, how the good things went on, and the difficult times, how you got through it, how you were helped through it, and the hands that were there. In my family, I've been the one that's identified, we have such a good memory. I'm not so sure about that. But I do get to spend time looking back on my moments, for sure. And I've been able to see a lot of love and compassion and kindness in my life, and that's the important thing. Now in Scripture, as we're reading through, and I think that helps us reflect too, there's some tremendous examples of moms in the Bible. And what's really interesting to me when I think about many of these moms in the Bible is we get to see them real. We don't get to see them all painted in the best light or anything else. We get to see them with their flaws and all, and that doesn't change their role or their influence on the lives that they touched. I mean, think about it. Eve, she's the first mother. She was a mother when there wasn't a playbook. She charted
a playbook now.
Well,
I think I missed that.
Well, some say there is. So, but there was definitely no examples for Eve to follow or to look onto. She charted the course. Without it, she didn't have a single role model, a mentor in her life, and she paved the way to become, as she's identified, the mother of all the living. And then you think of somebody like Sarah. Sarah, who's the mother, really ultimately the mother of Israel. she's somebody who laughed at God when the promises were there. That showed that, okay, God, I hear what you're saying, but you're not being very reasonable here. So there was that, but she learned in that doubt, in that moment of being real, I guess, if you want to say that God, the Lord God's the God of possibilities. And she shared this entire journey. Even when Abraham got it wrong, she wasn't fighting him. She just went along. And she shared the journey with Abraham and nurtured Isaac through some very challenging moments. And then when we just read about recently, if you're following along in the devotional reading, Hannah. Now, Hannah's story is just an incredible story. It's one of those stories of you see it of love and devotion, but Hannah really struggled with self-worth, with her value in who she was. She always felt less because she wasn't a mom at the time. And it affected her other relationships. It affected everything else. She felt worthless. She felt being less. And finally, her heartfelt prayers were answered. And she did the most selfless thing a mom could do. She gave her kid away. Wow. I just think about that sometimes. I see these relationships with moms and their kids, and that had to be so hard. But even, we see these examples, and they're real examples, and even when things didn't make sense, when life didn't make much sense, they were real moms. And they were nurturing, and they were ultimately caring. So I thought about, one of the things I thought about as I was preparing, and I've never done this before. I always, in my sermons, I'll always acknowledge something. I've done a Mother's Day sermon today. This is my first one. So, in all the years I've been preaching, I've always acknowledged moms and gone on to preach something else, or dads and go on to preach something else, or whatever. But I thought about some of those lessons I learned. Mom taught me to appreciate a job well done. She used to tell me, if you're going to kill each other, do it outside. I just finished cleaning. And then moms teach us the importance of prayer. You better pray that comes out of the carpet. Moms teach us the possibility of time travel. If you don't straighten up, I'm going to knock you into next week. Moms teach us reason and logic. Because I said so, that's why. And even more logic. If you fall out of that swing and break your neck, you're not going to the store with me. Moms teach us to be prepared for the unexpected. Make sure you wear clean underwear in case of an accident. Moms give practical illustrations of irony. Keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about. Moms helped us learn the science of osmosis. Shut your mouth and eat your dinner. Moms show us what stamina and perseverance are. You'll sit there until all that broccoli is gone. Moms teach us, yes. Moms teach us how to tell the weather. That room of yours looks like a hurricane went through it. Moms teach us how to receive. Just wait till I get home. Just wait till you get home. Moms teach us medical science. If you don't stop crossing your eyes, they're going to stick that way. Moms give us a real life perspective, a humorous perspective. When that lawnmower cuts off your toes, don't come running to me. Moms guide us on how to become an adult. If you don't eat your vegetables, you'll never grow up. Moms remind us that we're all based in genetics. You're just like your father. Moms remind us of our history, of our roots. Shut that door behind you. Do you think we live in a barn? Moms give us wisdom. When you get my age, you'll understand. And probably my favorite thing that moms teach us, it's about justice. One day you'll have kids, and I hope they turn out just like you. Okay. Now that my little venture into humor, into the one-liners is over, we're going to talk about one of those moms today that I find very, very interesting, and it's a story of a mom that you've heard in one way or another, but I'm going to hope that I can shed some different light on it. This mom is found in Matthew, in passage in Matthew, and she's an unnamed mother. We don't know who she is. The only thing we know about her is she's not a Jew. She's a Canaanite. She's a Gentile. So let me read the passage to you, and then we're going to talk about her briefly. Starting in verse 21, it says, Matthew 15, 21 through 28. See, if you had your notes, you'd have known that.
I know.
No, it's okay. Okay, then Jesus left Galilee and went north to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Gentile woman who lived there came to him, pleading, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David, for my daughter is possessed by a demon that torments her severely." But Jesus gave her no reply, not even a word. Then his disciples urged him to send her away. "Tell her to go away," they said. "She's bothering us with all her begging." Then Jesus said to the woman, "I was sent only to help God's lost sheep, the people of Israel." But she came and worshipped him, pleading again, "Lord, help me." Jesus responded, "It isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs." She replied, "That's true, Lord, but even the dogs are allowed to eat the scraps that fall beneath the master's table." "Dear woman," Jesus said to her, "your faith is great. Your request is granted." And her daughter was healed instantly. Now, most biblical characters we know a little bit of something about. And like I said earlier, all we know about this mom is she was a Gentile. She was a non-Jew. And she was in the region of Tyre and Sidon. Now, I always get so tripped up when you're talking about biblical areas because I don't have that map ingrained in my head. She's in modern-day Lebanon is where she was. That's where they were, in modern-day Lebanon. So that gives me a little bit better picture, at least the area that they were in and things like that. Now, she's unnamed, she's a Gentile, but obviously she'd heard about Jesus. And this caused her to seek him out. Why? Because she loved her daughter. The reality was that her daughter was suffering from something that in that day and even in today would be viewed as incurable. The demon possession had taken control of this young woman or young girl's life, and the mother was desperate for relief. She was desperate for a cure, not for relief on herself, but for her daughter to be freed from the suffering, from the pain, from the experience of what was going on, and from the torment. And, love, especially you moms, all you moms know this, a mother's love motivates her to move mountains for her kids. So this Canaanite woman was really willing to put herself at risk. She went out on a limb. First off, she's a Canaanite. Canaanites and the Jews are enemies. And she's walking into a group of Jewish men to plead for help. She should have been rejected just for that alone. So she's putting herself at tremendous risk. She knows who Jesus is. She's obviously heard of what's going on. Even though she's a Gentile, she acknowledges something that most Jews weren't willing to acknowledge. Jesus is the Messiah. Jesus is Lord. She said, I read earlier, she said, "Have mercy on me, Lord." That's a declaration. That term is actually the term for Messiah. It's "have mercy on me," and the Hebrew term is Messiah. It's actually the term for Messiah. And she acknowledged him as Lord, and then she continued acknowledgement, calling him the Son of David. And, she had accepted Jesus exactly for who she heard him to be. She accepted him, and she knew that. She signified that he was the true Messiah, at least in her opinion. And that was a huge acknowledgement. It reveals really the depth of her faith and her trust right then and there. And she's coming to the Lord, and she's crying out for one thing: mercy. Man, that's just what a parallel to our lives and our journey. It's when we really recognize that Jesus is Lord, and we come to him, we cry out for that mercy. We cry out in our desperation for him to resolve the circumstance, to resolve the situation. But she's letting this love drive her into this place of risk, into this place of where there really could be, that's a huge personal risk where she could be chased out. She could be, just put away. But it's the love. It's that love that drives us. That love that, love fuels our life. In hard times, love gives us strength. In difficult circumstances, love gives us power. In desperation, love gives us encouragement. When there's no purpose, love gives meaning. When there's struggle, love gives us enthusiasm. In turmoil, love gives us clarity. And it's those things that this woman is really expressing in this circumstance. In this moment, she understands that, and it's causing her to action. So we learn this lesson of really genuine and authentic love from this mother, who we really don't know who she is. But there's a couple other lessons we learn too. We learn a lesson of persistence. Now think about this. Jesus had been in ministry for a while. Remember when he gave the Sermon on the Mount, one of the things he said kind of in the last third of the Sermon on the Mount is, keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking. He's telling the disciples, he's telling the Jews that are listening, that are gathered around him, to be persistent in your actions, to be aware and be persistent. Well, she's seeking an audience with the Lord. And when she first comes, he doesn't even pay attention to her. How many times have you walked into a circumstance or a situation and you're there to make a request or something, and the person ignores you or just walks away, and you feel that wall up, and you just, okay, guess I got to go another way. Well, she wasn't going to accept that. She was seeking this audience, and so she kept presenting her needs. She kept asking. What did this cause? This caused the disciples to see her as a problem. Wow. These men see this Gentile woman as a problem. They had every right, according to Jewish law, to run her out. And yet they went to the Lord. Lord, she's bugging us. She's driving us crazy. Can't you do something, Lord? Gosh, we have these, they say send her away because she keeps asking. And really the disciples had really missed the point of what Jesus was trying to teach them and tell them. That ministry happens right where you are. And Jesus is going to turn this opportunity into an opportunity to minister, to serve others. Remember, Jesus has made it very clear that he's come to serve, not to be served. He's come to seek and save those who are lost. And this woman was unwilling to give up. She was going to grab on until she was heard. She refused to give up until she got an answer. How many times do you know people that are really needing something, and you know that Jesus is the answer in their life, and sometimes it's not the easiest thing in the world, and people struggle with that, and they get close, and then it becomes difficult, and they give up because the answer doesn't come the way they want it to come. People start seeking Jesus and stop when they don't get what they want. There's so many people that are like that. There's so many people that walk away. The lesson that the disciples should be learning here, and really one part of the lesson that Jesus has given them, is be persistent. Don't give up. This woman was going to pursue Jesus until she got an answer. I think if she got the answer no, it would have been an answer. But because he wasn't answering, she was going to keep asking until she got an answer. So, this persistence is another lesson. That endurance is key in our walk, in our journey. It's a lesson for us today. The ability to keep going during difficulties is essential to growing in grace. It's to growing and becoming a mature Christian. Life happens. Life happens, and it doesn't always happen easy. And it doesn't change God's love for us or our relationship with him unless we allow it to. There's another big lesson we learn here. And it's a hard lesson for most of us. And it's a lesson of humility. This mother's coming and she's pleading her case. But she's pleading for somebody else. Even though it's her daughter, she's pleading for somebody else. She's putting herself in a difficult circumstance and situation for someone else. Okay? She falls before the Lord. It's said in there. She falls before the Lord in submission, in an act of worship. So she's saying, this isn't about me. That willingness to submit, that willingness to listen, and to be there and to lay it out is an act of saying, God, I need you, but I'm not making this about me. I'm making this about you. And I want to honor you. I want to worship you. See, and so Jesus doesn't directly address her at first. He makes a statement that everybody's going to hear. What? That I came first for the Jews. Basically, is what he's saying. I came first to bring salvation to the Jews. And then it would come to the Gentiles. I came to feed the lost sheep. That's a reference to Israel. Okay? It's a reference to priorities. He's not criticizing her. So many people see that as he's putting her down, or he's not criticizing. He's very clearly establishing the priorities. Is what he's doing. Now, understand that this Canaanite woman's not trying to take something that's not hers. She's not trying to just to move herself to the front of the line. She isn't trying to put herself in the place of the Jews, saying, my need is much more pressing, my need is more important. She understands that the Messiah, that the Christ, is sufficient. That's why she responds the way she does when he says, when she says that don't even the dogs eat the crumbs, the scraps that fall off the table. She realizes that these crumbs, these little things that Jesus would offer, were more than enough to meet the great need that she had. They were more than enough to answer her request. And she trusted in the power and the things she had heard, and she trusted in the compassion of the Messiah. What another life lesson for us. So many people are looking for that big thing, for that great thing, or whatever else, and instead of coming and saying, Lord, it's not about me, it's about you, and anything that happens should honor and glorify you in my life. And then we trust his compassion and abilities. How many times do you know somebody that, well, I'm going to pray for something, and as soon as they pray, okay, God, I'm putting this in your hands, and they stop praying and they take it right back. I've still got to fix it. I've got to do my part. That's not who God is, and she knows that. See, in these actions, in this love, in this persistence, in this act of worship and humility, and her expressing her trust in the Lord, Jesus sees faith in a real way. He sees this because of her actions, because of her willingness not to turn away. And she said, God, I trust you no matter what. And because of that response, it grabs his attention. It gets his attention. Now see, again, none of this is about the woman, but she wants relief. She wants help for her daughter, and she, at bringing this need to him, is going to find the peace and hope that they're all longing for, that we long for if we would approach the Lord that way. Her pleas for help, her cries for healing were heard and acted upon, not because that's the way we got to get Jesus to act, but because of Jesus, because of his compassion and his grace, and she trusted that. She trusted in the providence of God. That's hard sometimes, isn't it? Especially when it feels like the world's crushing down and things just aren't going well and everything's coming unraveled, for us to really trust in that compassion. And when we're in the middle of a difficult situation and circumstance, sometimes that's hard to do. But faith is just that, taking the Lord at his word and believing that his actions are for our best. We're so much like those people that, I want patience and I want it right now. There are challenges, there are hard times. Jesus said this, in the world you're going to have trouble, but be of good cheer because I've overcome the world. The challenges and the hard time aren't the issues. The fact that this daughter was demon possessed wasn't the issue. This was an opportunity to see faith in action and to see who this woman really truly believed in and trusted. See, our hard times, our difficulties aren't the circumstance. It's who we trust in that circumstance. We run into problems too often and let the issues become the focus, instead of running into problems and letting the Lord become the focus. Moms teach us to trust. Every time I had a boo-boo, every time I messed up, run to Mom. Mom, fix it. We're still that 2-year-old kid that when something happens, runs to Mom and say, Mom, help. Mom, fix it. Mom, kiss it better. Mom, whatever. And that's the same way we should approach the Lord. Something's happened, Lord. Lord, I'm coming to you. Fix it. Make it better. You are the author. You are the perfecter. You are the finisher. See, you moms always solve it. You always make it better. You always show compassion and kindness. Sometimes even when you're at the end of your rope. And what a great life lesson that is for us. What a great example it is for us. So many people say that they have a problem with the Lord, trusting God, because they see God as that male influence. And yet it's the nurturing and the compassion and the mercy and the understanding that comes from Mom that we can see in God too. And that's what we need to focus on. It's time for us to run to Him, because He is the author and the perfecter of our faith. And when we learn to trust Him in the moment, we find that peace, we find that acceptance, we find that compassion that we desperately need. Let's pray. Father, I'm just so thankful today for moms. I'm surrounded by a bunch of moms here, and I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Just to know what they go through for us. It's just such a great example of your love and your compassion for us. I thank you that you understand us, and you know what? You, like the moms in our life, don't abandon us when we mess it up. So I'm just so thankful for that. I'm thankful for this day, Lord, and for all that you are to us. May we honor and glorify you, Father, and may we just take a moment today and say to every mom out there, may you be blessed. Thank you for all that you've done and continue to do. And you know, mom is one of those jobs that you never retire from. You're just always there. So I'm so grateful for that. It is about His grace, family. It's His grace first and His grace always. And if we can live it like moms live it, with simplicity and with hope and with a lot of love, we'll be a lot better off. Have a wonderful week. Oh, and by the way, we've postponed the trip, so we will be here for the next few weeks. We're not going away next weekend, so we're just going to continue on. We'll see everybody on Wednesday night as we continue in Esther, and we will be here next weekend. So have a great week, all.